that's something, when I was a kid, like I told you, I had that narrative that I built up in my head that, you know, I'm not as talented as the other guys, I'm going to have to work hard. And I started to connect the dots very early on that if I worked harder than the guys that were next to me in the gym, and, you know, if we had to do 10 chin-ups, if I did 11, or we had to do 1,000 circles, if I did 1,100, I'd figured out that usually that meant to me, not necessarily beating them, but certainly improving myself all the time. So once I figured that out, I basically dedicated my life to becoming the hardest worker in the gym. You know, I'd always heard quotes when I was a kid that, you know, be the first person in and the last person to leave. And I can remember reading Johnny Wilkinson's book when I was a kid and reading about how he used to stay after training sessions every day and hit 20 drop kicks on each foot. So I'd read that kind of stuff and it just filled me up and inspired me and confirmed to me that I was doing the right thing and working the hardest. And I think the beautiful thing about gymnastics is, and any sport, to be honest, is that when you walk through that door or you step on that pitch, it's a level playing field. It doesn't matter where you came from, like who your family are, like how much money you've got. It doesn't matter. All that matters is how hard can you work? Are you going to be respectful of the other people in the gym? Can you work in a team? And like for me, that's why I love sport. That's why I love gymnastics. And, you know, the first thing, or the thing that impresses me the most when I'm working with other people or looking at young kids is how hard can they work? And I know that when I was a kid, if Sergey had gone out of the gym and they left us to it and we were doing conditioning, you know, a lot of kids would, if the coach wasn't watching, they'd do 7 instead of 10, or they'd do 6. And I knew that would make the difference in the end. And so if your coach could have left me, they could have left me in the gym on my own for 4 hours and I'd never miss a rep. And I loved hard work because I was a bit like Lewis. That when I was a kid, I had so much energy. I just didn't know what to do with it. And school was difficult for me. You know, I struggled concentrating at school, like reading and writing didn't make sense. But moving my body, it just seemed to calm me down. My brain races at 100 miles an hour. But when I've done sport is the only thing that I've ever came across and ever done that I'm able to just focus on one thing and my brain switches off and I can focus on that activity and that sport or that skill or that move that I'm doing in that moment. So for me, sport was brilliant. It helped me calm down. And all I wanted was hard work. Just throw as much work at me as possible. And, you know, I did at times used to get frustrated with my dad because I'd always be the last kid in the gym. And our sessions used to finish at 8 o'clock and at like 8:45, I'd still be on the P-bars trying to do dismounts. And Sergey would be looking over to my dad and saying, "Bob, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes." And my dad would just look and he'd give him a thumbs up. And I think, "Dad, why can't you just say, you need to take me home like all the other kids' parents?" But I'm sure that's what made the difference in the end, you know, that work ethic. And that was instilled in me through my family values. Like my granddad was a farmer. My mum's family, they're all from inner city, Nottingham, didn't really have that much. My granddad was in the army. And that work ethic was always drilled into me when I was a kid, you know. There was never any excuse. I never had an excuse. If I didn't work hard enough, my dad was on me. He didn't care how I performed and whether I won and stuff, but that I was always putting in 100%. And I'm so grateful for that my family instilled that within me. Because it took me a long way. And work ethic can take you a long way, and it certainly is what gets you to the start line. And I think the gymnast that epitomises that for me is a champion right now at this moment is Joe Fraser.